Margaret was 68 years old when I first met her in my clinic. Pre-diabetic, kidney function declining. Her nephrologist was preparing her for dialysis within the year.
What were her numbers?
eGFR at 32, creatinine climbing every month. Classic chronic kidney disease progression. I told her what I tell all my patients. Prepare for the reality of dialysis.
And she accepted that?
She did, until her daughter, who had lived in Tokyo for 5 years, insisted she try something else. Something that frankly sounded ridiculous to me at the time.
Let me guess. She changed her diet to traditional Japanese foods.
3 specific foods. Nothing else changed. No new medications, no procedures. 8 months later, her kidney function improved by 23%. Her eGFR went from 32 to 41.
That's not surprising to me at all, Robert.
Well, it shocked me. And when I dug into her diet diary, I found 3 foods that Japanese people eat daily, but Americans either mock or completely forget about.
In my practice in Osaka, I have been prescribing these same 3 foods for over 30 years. Not as folklore, but as clinical protocol.
Akira, I'm going to need more than anecdotal evidence here. I'm a geriatric specialist. I need mechanisms, data, controlled studies.
And I'm a family physician who has treated over 4,000 elderly patients. I have 3 generations of data, Robert. Real patients, real outcomes, real lives extended.
That's observational at best. Show me randomized controlled trials, and I'll listen.
You want trials? Japan has the highest life expectancy on Earth, 84 years average. America, 76 years. That's an 8-year gap. That's my trial.
Correlation isn't causation, Akira. There are 100 variables between Japanese and American lifestyles.
Then explain Margaret. Explain my 400 patients over 80 who eat these foods and have dementia rates 1/10 of your American statistics.
All right, I'm listening. But I'm going to challenge every claim you make today.
Good. That's exactly what medicine needs. Let's talk about the 3 foods Americans have forgotten.
Before we do, let me introduce myself. I'm Dr. Robert Harper, geriatric and elderly care specialist, practicing in Chicago for 28 years.
And I'm Dr. Akira Tanaka, family physician, trained in Tokyo, now practicing in both Japan and the United States.
Today we're examining 3 specific foods that Japanese centenarians eat daily. Foods that most Americans either don't know about or actively avoid.
And by the end of this conversation, you'll understand why these aren't just cultural traditions, but legitimate medical interventions.
We'll see about that. Let's start with the first food. What is it?
Natto, fermented soybeans. In Japan, we eat it for breakfast almost every single day.
Fermented soybeans. The slimy, stringy stuff that smells like old socks. You're telling me that's a longevity food?
I'm telling you it contains an enzyme called nattokinase that dissolves blood clots more effectively than many pharmaceutical interventions.
That's a bold claim. Show me the mechanism.
Nattokinase is a serine protease. It directly breaks down fibrin, the protein mesh that forms blood clots. Studies show it reduces clot formation by up to 40%.
And Americans don't eat it because?
Because it looks strange, smells strong, and American food culture prioritizes convenience and familiar flavors over nutritional density.
So it's a texture and smell issue. That's cultural, not medical.
Exactly. But that cultural preference is costing American seniors their cardiovascular health. Stroke is the 5th leading cause of death in the U.S. In Japan, it's declining.
You're attributing that entirely to natto? That seems like a stretch.
Not entirely. But when I have patients who start eating natto 3 times per week, their D-dimer levels drop significantly within 2 months.
D-dimer is a clotting marker. Lower is better. But how much are we talking about here?
In my clinical observations, an average reduction of 25 to 35%. Comparable to low-dose aspirin, but without the gastric bleeding risks.
That's interesting, but it's still observational. Where are the double-blind trials?
There are several from Japanese universities. Hiroshima University published a study in 2015 showing nattokinase improved arterial flexibility in elderly participants.
Arterial flexibility. You mean vascular compliance?
Yes. Pulse wave velocity decreased, meaning arteries became more elastic. That's critical for preventing hypertension and heart failure in aging populations.
All right, I'll concede that nattokinase has some intriguing properties, but eating it daily? That's a big ask for American patients.
It's not about asking, Robert. It's about educating. If you told your patients that eating this food 3 times a week could reduce stroke risk, would they try it?
Some would, but compliance is always an issue, especially with foods that have strong flavors or unusual textures.
Then start small. 1 tablespoon with rice. Add soy sauce, mustard, green onions. Make it palatable. That's what I do with my American patients.
And they stick with it?
About 60% do. And those 60% show measurable improvements in cardiovascular markers within 3 months.
That's actually a decent adherence rate. Most dietary interventions fail at 70 to 80%.
Because the results are undeniable. When patients feel better, see better lab numbers, they continue.
Fair enough. What's the second food?
Wakame. It's a type of seaweed. We use it in miso soup, salads, and as a side dish.
Seaweed. Americans think of that as sushi wrapping or beach debris, not food.
And that's a catastrophic nutritional oversight. Wakame contains fucoxanthin, a carotenoid that reduces visceral fat and improves metabolic function.
Visceral fat is the dangerous fat, the fat around organs that drives inflammation and insulin resistance.
Exactly. And American seniors have some of the highest visceral fat levels in the developed world. It's killing them slowly through chronic inflammation.
So you're saying seaweed can reduce that fat?
Not just reduce. Studies show fucoxanthin increases fat oxidation by upregulating a protein called UCP1 in adipose tissue. It literally turns fat-storing cells into fat-burning cells.
UCP1 is uncoupling protein 1. That's thermogenesis, heat production. But how significant is the effect?
Hokkaido University found that participants eating wakame daily lost an average of 2.4 kilograms of visceral fat over 16 weeks without changing anything else.
2.4 kilograms is about 5 pounds. That's clinically significant for metabolic health.
And it's not just the fucoxanthin. Wakame is loaded with iodine, magnesium, calcium, and trace minerals that most Americans are severely deficient in.
Iodine is critical for thyroid function. Hypothyroidism is rampant in elderly populations, especially women.
In Japan, we don't see the same rates of thyroid dysfunction. Why? Because we eat seaweed multiple times per week. It's built into our food culture.
But Americans salt their food with iodized salt. Isn't that enough?
Iodized salt provides maybe 150 micrograms daily if you consume enough salt. Wakame provides 200 to 400 micrograms in just one small serving, plus all the other minerals.
And the magnesium is important too. Magnesium deficiency is linked to hypertension, arrhythmias, and muscle weakness in seniors.
Exactly. So why are Americans not eating this?
Because it's not in the standard American diet. Nobody's grandmother made seaweed soup. It's foreign, unfamiliar.
That's cultural amnesia, Robert. 50 years ago, Americans ate more organ meats, bone broths, fermented foods. Now it's processed everything.
I agree the American diet has degraded significantly, but expecting seniors to suddenly start eating seaweed is unrealistic.
Then we meet them halfway. Dried wakame in soups, seaweed snacks instead of chips. Small changes that deliver massive health benefits.
All right, I can see the case for wakame. But you said there are 3 foods. What's the third one?
Shiitake mushrooms. Fresh, not dried. We cook them in almost everything in Japan.
Mushrooms. Americans do eat mushrooms. Button mushrooms, portobellos. What makes shiitake special?
Shiitake contains lentinin, a beta-glucan polysaccharide that dramatically enhances immune function. It activates macrophages, natural killer cells, and T lymphocytes.
Those are all components of the immune system, but elderly immune function declines naturally. You can't reverse immunosenescence with food.
I'm not claiming reversal. I'm claiming enhancement. And the data supports it. Japanese seniors eating shiitake regularly have significantly lower rates of respiratory infections.
Respiratory infections are a major cause of hospitalization and death in elderly Americans. Pneumonia, flu, COVID complications.
Exactly. And if we could reduce infection rates by even 20% through dietary intervention, that would save thousands of lives annually.
20% is optimistic. What's the actual evidence?
University of Florida conducted a study where participants ate shiitake mushrooms daily for 4 weeks. Immune markers improved across the board, with T-cell proliferation increasing significantly.
T-cell proliferation means better immune response. But was this in elderly participants or young, healthy adults?
Young adults, I'll admit. But my clinical experience with elderly patients shows similar patterns when they consume shiitake 3 to 4 times weekly.
Clinical experience again. Akira, I need you to understand that anecdotal evidence doesn't guide treatment protocols in Western medicine.
And I need you to understand that dismissing 50 years of clinical observation across thousands of patients is medical arrogance, Robert.
That's not fair. I'm asking for the same standards we apply to pharmaceutical interventions.
Food is not a drug. It doesn't get billion-dollar funding for clinical trials. But that doesn't mean it's ineffective.
Then how do we bridge this gap? Because I can't prescribe shiitake mushrooms to my patients based on your observations alone.
You don't prescribe it. You recommend it. You say, research shows this food supports immune health. It's safe, inexpensive, and has 0 side effects. Try it.
And if they get sick anyway?
Then they get sick. But their baseline immune function will be stronger. Their recovery will be faster. That's what I see clinically.
I'm still skeptical, but I'll acknowledge that shiitake has compounds with documented immune-modulating properties.
It also contains ergothioneine, a powerful antioxidant that accumulates in mitochondria and protects cells from oxidative stress.
Oxidative stress drives aging at the cellular level. Mitochondrial dysfunction is central to age-related diseases.
And shiitake delivers one of the highest concentrations of ergothioneine of any food. Higher than liver, higher than kidney beans.
That's actually compelling. Why don't Americans eat more shiitake then?
Because 50 years ago, supermarkets stopped carrying them. Button mushrooms became the standard because they're cheaper, grow faster, and have no flavor to offend anyone.
So it's an economic and supply chain issue, not a preference issue.
Exactly. Americans didn't reject shiitake. They forgot it existed. And now they're paying the price with weakened immune systems and chronic disease.
Let me ask you this. If I have a patient who starts eating all 3 of these foods, what realistic outcomes can I expect?
Within 3 months, improved cardiovascular markers, reduced inflammation, better metabolic function, and stronger immune response to infections.
And you've seen this consistently?
In over 60% of patients who adhere to the protocol, yes. The other 40% either don't stick with it or have confounding health issues.
60% success rate is better than most lifestyle interventions. Most diet changes fail at 70 to 80%.
Because this isn't a diet, Robert. It's 3 specific foods added to existing eating patterns. It's achievable.
What about cost? Are these foods expensive?
Natto costs about $1 per serving. Dried wakame is $2 for a month's supply. Fresh shiitake is $4 per pound.
So we're talking about less than $10 per week total.
Less than $10 per week to potentially add years to your life and dramatically improve your health span.
That's cheaper than most supplement regimens my patients are already taking.
And infinitely more effective because these are whole foods with synergistic compounds, not isolated nutrients in pill form.
I'll concede that point. Whole foods deliver nutrients in bioavailable forms, with cofactors that enhance absorption.
So why isn't this standard medical advice in America?
Because American medical education focuses on pharmacology and procedures, not nutrition. We get maybe 6 hours of nutrition training and 4 years of medical school.
That's insane. Food is medicine. It's the foundation of health. How can you treat patients without understanding nutrition?
You can't, not effectively. But the system doesn't incentivize nutritional counseling. Insurance reimburses procedures and prescriptions, not dietary advice.
Then the system is broken, and patients are suffering because of it.
I agree. So what do we do about it?
We educate. We share this information. We empower patients to make these changes themselves without waiting for the medical establishment to catch up.
And we provide evidence when we can. Even if it's not perfect double-blind placebo-controlled trials, we share what exists.
Exactly. Because waiting for perfect evidence means another generation of Americans dies prematurely from preventable diseases.
Let's go back to Margaret for a moment. After she improved her kidney function with these foods, what happened?
She continued the protocol. 2 years later, her eGFR is stable at 43. She never needed dialysis.
And her nephrologist's response?
Shocked. He told her, whatever she's doing, keep doing it. But he never asked what she was eating.
That's the problem. We see the results but don't investigate the mechanism. We miss opportunities to help other patients.
Which is why conversations like this matter. We need to share these stories, these foods, these strategies.
I want to address something important. Can eating these foods cause harm? Are there contraindications?
Natto can interact with blood thinners like warfarin because of its vitamin K2 content. Patients on anticoagulants should consult their doctor before eating it regularly.
That's critical. Vitamin K2 promotes blood clotting, which counteracts warfarin's effects.
Correct. For wakame, excessive iodine intake can trigger thyroid problems in susceptible individuals. I recommend starting with small amounts and monitoring.
And shiitake mushrooms?
Rarely, some people develop a skin rash called shiitake dermatitis from eating raw or undercooked shiitake. Always cook them thoroughly.
So there are precautions, but for most people these foods are safe when consumed in reasonable amounts.
Exactly. And reasonable amounts means what Japanese people eat. A serving of natto 3 times per week, seaweed in soup regularly, shiitake in stir-fries.
Not megadoses, not supplements, just food as part of a normal diet.
Precisely. That's the beauty of this approach. It's sustainable, affordable, and culturally adaptable.
Let me ask the obvious question. If these foods are so powerful, why isn't Big Pharma studying them?
Because you can't patent natto. You can't patent wakame or shiitake. There's no profit in telling people to eat real food.
That's unfortunately true. Pharmaceutical development requires massive investment, and without patent protection, there's no return.
Which means nutritional research is underfunded, and these foods remain obscure in Western medicine, despite centuries of evidence from Asia.